Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Kelly Green Hour as the bye week is over and the Eagles are set to play some football back at the Link for only the second time this year against the Cleveland Browns out of the AFC North. I'm your host, LJ Harrell, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Connor Donald. Connor, what's up, man? I know we did the recap show last week, but it just feels like it's been a long time. And this bye came at a much needed time for the Eagles. And when the schedule came out, we thought, an early break is going to be doomed. But man, did this team ever need it?
Yeah, I mean, we are going into into this game with a completely healthy Eagles roster. Now, obviously, we sit there and we say, boy, did we need this. But, 10 weeks from now, we might be saying, boy, I wish we had this later bye. But unfortunately, the reality is we got the early bye. We needed the early bye. Lane Johnson's coming off a concussion. DeVonta Smith coming off a concussion. Johnny Wilson coming off a concussion. And then you got A.J. Brown coming back. Sidney McBrown might be back. Anaya Smith is going to shake up who starts at the wide receiver, or not starts, but is going to shake up how the depth chart goes for the Eagles wide receivers going forward. Because of course we were just kind of slapping different people in there every week. But now that Anaya Smith is healthy from his freak injury that suddenly happened when roster cut down happened,
so I'm not making him out to be the savior.
No. There is nothing in this Eagles depth chart of wide receivers that is the savior. If DeVonta Smith or A.J. Brown go down again, let's just hope they stay healthy.
Yep. Before we jump into the game action, or at least into our preview of the Eagles and Browns, as always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. You can follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10, and you can follow me on Twitter at LJ Harrell54. And as always, if you're going to join us live, let us know your thoughts on the upcoming game, as we already got Party on Broad podcast. I know you guys. Hey, we know you too. Oh, Lordy. Do you have to bring up that scrub team, the worst team in the city? I don't care. The most overrated team of all time. Let's not bring that team up. They're going to, because everybody in the NBA makes the playoffs, they'll make the playoffs and then lose in the first round again.
And of course, shout out to our new home, the Eagles Pin Pull Network. You can find them on X and you can find them on YouTube. Currently, it's at Shane and Half on YouTube, and Eagles Pin Pull Network on X. And of course, everywhere you watch your podcasts, type in the search bar Eagles Pin Pull Network and hit that subscribe button. That's Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube Music, wherever you get your podcast. Just search it, subscribe to it, and you can catch it all there.
Yes, sir. All right, let's jump into the action. You had mentioned how everybody's getting healthy and Sidney Brown's going to be back. The one thing you didn't mention, the new starting nickel corner is going to be Cooper DeJean. It's DeJean, I know, but let's go with DeJean. Taking over for Avonte Maddox, who has not looked good this year. I mean, the Eagles did cut him. He had one visit to the Saints. Nobody scooped him up. He came back. Kind of by default became the nickel corner for the Eagles and really struggled this year. And now Cooper DeJean, Vic Fangio said he looks good. He looks ready to go. And now they're letting the young Thunder guys, the young Thundercats for the Eagles go out there and play. Quinyon Mitchell's a starter. Now Cooper DeJean's a starter. We know Jalen Carter. We know Jordan Davis is out there. Nakobe Dean. Look, the defense is young. The offense, now that they're healthy for the first time since week one, they're going to have to put up points to be able to kind of allow the defense to grow together and hopefully get better as the season goes on.
Yeah, I mean, Cooper DeJean, this was bound to happen with Cooper DeJean. How long were you really going to let Avonte Maddox go? Eventually, you had to make that decision. Let's get Cooper DeJean comfortable. Let's get him healthy. Or Avonte Maddox was going to get injured. One or the other was going to come first, and it looks like the time has come for Cooper DeJean to take over that role. We know there's a lot of young guys in this defense. There's some growing pains going on with some of them, but like you said, Quinyon Mitchell is everything as advertised, probably more currently than what we had anticipated and then what was advertised. Cooper DeJean, this could be really different. We don't know what we're expecting from him. There could be some early growing pains, but obviously, Avonte Maddox had a decent game And then since then, it's been a little bit spotty. So, I mean, you hopefully, fingers crossed, can't get much worse than that. But we're going to,
say that.
and obviously from an offensive perspective, you got to get people off your back. This is a time that Jalen Hurts has to prove the doubters wrong. I mean, obviously Jalen Hurts without his studs is a shell of himself. I think that became very clear.
Well, let's be real. Unless you're Patrick Mahomes, and if any quarterback loses their top two receivers, the best right tackle in football, you're going to struggle a little bit. Let's be real.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. You're definitely going to struggle. I mean, Jalen Hurts, like, I think, like everyone taught, like when he signed the big contract, there's expectations that if somebody goes down, you're going to be able to carry the offense. And I think it's pretty clear that Jalen Hurts can't carry this offense on his own or with just Dallas Goedert or Saquon Barkley. Although Saquon Barkley might be able to carry it if he was given more touches earlier in the game. But that's neither here nor there.
And as Nick Sirianni said against Tampa, I mean, like they were down almost, was it 21-0 before they got their second possession, it seemed like. So it's hard to give Saquon the ball when you're down 3 scores. You want to be able to try to get back into it. And obviously, you can't score 3 touchdowns. Like you can't score 3 touchdowns in one possession. But you also don't want to abandon the first drive after halftime. The first play after halftime, Saquon went for a long run. So you definitely don't want to give up on the run. You gave Saquon money for a reason. You want him to be out there, especially when you don't have your top 2 weapons. You want him to be able to help take on most of the offensive prowess. You want him to be the main focal point. Yeah, teams are going to try to take him away, but with the offensive line you have, and I know they didn't have Lane Johnson against Tampa, you're going to want to take advantage still and use his abilities. Party on Broad podcast. What's the panic level look like if the Eagles pass rush can't get home against the Browns? It's going to be bad. Like the Browns give up sacks, like, and they're a team that is very hurt. They're injured right now. They have a lot of guys that are going to be out this week, and they have Deshaun Watson. Why do I feel like, though, Connor, that the Deshaun Watson that we're going to see on Sunday is going to be the one that played against the Eagles in 2018 when he had like 400 yards passing?
I mean, let's be honest. Is that not how our defense is making every quarterback look right now? And I mean, like, to your point, they're going to be currently it looks like they're going to be without their starting center. They're going to be without their starting right tackle. And then, of course, if you look on the defensive side of the ball, when we flip over there,
playing?
Maybe not. It's still I think it's up in the air. And then there's a few bodies on the defensive side of the ball that are up in the air as well. So I mean,
Jordan Hicks most likely won't play. Denzel Ward practiced. Grant Delpit's out. Ronnie Hickman's out. There's your 2 starting safeties. So we'll see the return of Rodney McLeod at the link, and he's probably going to be out on the field. Denzel Ward's questionable. He has not played, I don't think, this year yet, but he probably will return this week. Jordan Hicks, I think, could potentially be out. But we're talking about a Browns defense that was number 1 in the league last year, and they have struggled this year. Let's be real. They lost to Dallas. They lost to the Giants. A lot of it isn't on the defense, though. It's on Deshaun Watson. Like, he is really bad. We saw what the Browns looked like with Joe Flacco last year. And if you were to do an anonymous poll of this Browns team, 99.9% of them would rather have Joe Flacco playing for them than Deshaun Watson. Let's just be real, because Deshaun Watson is a shell of his former self. He is not a good quarterback right now. But when you look on this defense, and we'll talk about the offense, but when you look on the defensive side of the football, Myles Garrett is still, while he's banged up, he is still legit. Like, he's going to be somebody that's still going to put pressure on Jalen Hurts, Darius Smith can get after the quarterback. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, he's been really good. So the Eagles are going to have to take advantage of the injured secondary. This is where why do I keep saying Deshaun Watson? This is where A.J. Brown, this is where Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. The Eagles are going to have to take advantage of that. And I'm not saying come out and throw the ball 50 times, but A.J. Brown, after having not played since week 1, he's going to want to come out and make a statement and prove that he is healthy.
Yeah, you know that both Devontae Smith and AJ Brown are going to want to make statements. And when those two guys are on their game, they both bring out the best in each other. We know that there was high hopes for Devontae Smith this season because a lot of the attention was going to go to Saquon Barkley and AJ Brown. You only could defend so many people. And Devontae Smith was living up to that until the concussion happened. While I disagree with his sentiment that it wasn't a dirty hit, he says that he feels it wasn't a dirty hit, and it was just a football play, and the whistle should have been blown earlier. I think we can all agree both the whistle should have been blown earlier on that play, and it was a dirty hit. But there's so much to take advantage of. Like you said, the injury report, it's just so long for them, and they got limited people, like even the people who are going to play, like Jack Conklin, who's been limited most of the week, Jedrick Wills, who's been limited for most of the week. They're going to be without their starting center. Like, you look at some of these people, what does limited mean? What type of play are they going to come in with? Because they're obviously not going to be 100%. So what can we take advantage of there? Like, I mean, especially the pass rush, going back to Party on Broad's question, the pass rush has to figure something out. And I'm not going to say
Jalen Carter should beat
I'm not
the
going to
center.
say I'm not going to say my panic level is completely quelled if they get pressure on this Cleveland Browns offensive line. It's consistency, exactly. So they need to do it this week and continue to show it. And this week, like, there should be 5 sacks, 5+ sacks. Like, without a doubt, in my mind.
Well, we did say the same thing against Tampa. After Tampa gave up a bunch of sacks to who did they lose to? Before they faced the Eagles, whoever Tampa faced, they gave up a bunch of sacks to a team that everybody had picked, almost everybody had picked them to beat. And it was like they were looking ahead to the Eagles. So I feel like we say this a lot. The opposing offensive line is banged up. The Eagles defensive line should have a field day. And then it doesn't happen. So hopefully sooner or later it does.
I agree. Like, the game, it has to happen. The day has to come. But I mean, at the end of the day, one game isn't going to quell my fears. And my panic level, even after this week, even if we end up with 5 or 6 sacks, is still going to remain semi-high, because when we go up against real competition later in the season, if after this week that consistency doesn't start to come, then something needs to change. Something needs to happen. Howie's going to have to go and find somebody. And the longer you wait, the later you wait into the season, you're just losing out on the opportunity to get certain players. So it's Howie's going to eventually have to make the call of, okay, I need to bring somebody in. I definitely need to get some help. Bread Eclipse says, we got to see Fangio adjust and have guys playing. Just use the Tampa method of spamming quick passes.
I 100% agree with that, but it was interesting what Fangio had said after the game when he had his press conference, and he said that the corners can do that on their own. So now, I don't know how Fangio is one Fangio is one to speak his mind. He doesn't care who you are. He will say what he wants to say, when he wants to say it, how he wants to say it. So if that's true, then that would be on Slay and Mitchell. Like, I get it that they were going up against Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. So I don't know if they didn't just want to get beat off the line of scrimmage and give up big plays, but they gave up big plays anyway. So I'm hoping, you're right, but you're going up against a really good, trio of receivers this week. You're going up against Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore. Like, so it's going to be another battle. Like, for Cooper, DeJean's first starting action, he might be lining up against one of the best route runners in the league in Amari Cooper. Like, we can't get mad at DeJean, and obviously us cynical, us laid back, we don't overthink or anything. Philadelphia Eagles fans are going to get mad after if DeJean gives up the touchdown pass to Amari Cooper if he's in the slot. Like, we're not going to complain. I bet you he'll boo birds at the link, but like that, we just have to be patient with him. This can be his first starting action. He's healthy, but you're going to go up against a really, really good route runner. We just have to hope it's Deshaun Watson of this year and not Deshaun Watson of 5 years ago that's going to show up in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. You're going up against even Elijah Moore is not a bad third option. Jerry Jeudy's shown to be pretty good this year. given the circumstances with Deshaun Watson. Amari Cooper's always been a consistent weapon. And of course, he is an extremely great route runner. And as soon as he gets the opportunity to get open, that's gonna be all it takes. All you need to do is get open one time. Deshaun Watson sees you, and you can make some plays happen. And although the offense of the Cleveland Browns, when you look across the board, does not rank very well, except minus the fact that they throw the ball a lot, which is unsurprising because they play from behind a lot. There's always the opportunity that think that Deshaun Watson can make plays happen. We can turn Deshaun Watson into Deshaun Watson before his suspension and before missing time and before the injuries. We've seen us do that with quarterbacks who other teams have had no problem shutting down. So it'll be interesting to see what happens given the entirety of the circumstance. And just like you said, Brett Eclipse says to adjust. How much we really want to put into Vic Fangio's comments, that's up for debate. It's easy for you to say what you want to say in front of the media just to pull off a certain image. We've seen that in Philadelphia, especially around Philadelphia media. But if it is the other people, if it is a cornerback's choice to play back or play up, what does that say about your confidence level in them going forward? You're kind of putting them in a spot where it's like, well, do we have confidence in them? Should we have confidence in them? Because the only one doing much of anything is Kenyon Mitchell, but sometimes he gives up some big plays too. It's all part of the game, especially in a pass-friendly league. But, you're kind of throwing them under the bus and saying that it's your choice, and it makes them look like they're not confident in themselves.
Corners have to help the front four, and the front four have to help the corners. Like, as Brad Eclipse said, like, what Tampa did was they played the quick passing game because the corners were playing off so far. So it doesn't give the front four a chance to get there. So now they're going to have to come up. And I think like it could be easier to do that against a quarterback like Deshaun Watson because maybe he will be inclined to hold on to the ball a little bit longer. Baker Mayfield took what the Eagles gave him pretty much, and he was getting rid of the ball really quick. Brett Eclipse says, I'd be okay with DeJean getting burnt. At least he can learn and develop. You get nothing with Michelle Maddox. That's true. And the one thing that DeJean will do, he'll tackle. We saw in the last preseason game against the Vikings. He got beat on a couple pass plays, a lot of pass plays actually, but he was tackling. And that's one thing, like you saw it in Tampa game. Maddox, it wasn't just Maddox, like everybody missed tackles, but Maddox had that one play. He kind of just dove at, I think it was Godwin, had his head down, and Godwin was able to have a big play after that. So you want to, you put somebody out there that's willing to tackle, and DeJean has the ability to tackle. He did it against Minnesota, and again, it was a preseason game, but he's going to put his body out there, and he's going to tackle running back or tackle tight end, tackle receivers, whatever it is. So again, I want to see what he has. We also have to temper expectations. Remember when we got Nakobe Dean in the third round, everybody's like, oh my God, we got a first round talent. And we're seeing why he was a third round pick. While DeJean was also supposed to be a first round pick, the Eagles got him in the second round. So we got to have to temper expectations when it comes to Cooper DeJean. We see Quinyon Mitchell. He's going to be a bona fide number one stud lockdown corner, I believe, in the future, in a year, maybe two, or, in 2 years, probably most likely. And I don't know if DeJean's future is at safety or at nickel, but wherever it is, like we have to be patient with him. It's going to be his first extensive action. And hopefully that means he's not returning punts too, because for some odd reason, Keely Ringo and Isaiah Rodgers, I have something against them because they didn't like when he was returning the punts against Tampa.
Yeah, and I mean, so like in some of the practices and some of the images and videos we saw, Cooper DeJean was returning punts. It seems like a unique way to utilize one of your potential future cornerbacks, like star cornerbacks, someone you're going to rely on a lot defensively. And this may just purely be that they need to mix things up with Britton Covey out of the mix for a while. When Britton Covey's back, we know he's going to take that job back. We know that's his role. And then you get some of these other guys out of the firing squad, out of the way of getting run over, or the risk of injury, returning punts and kicks as well. So, but I agree on the Cooper DeJean front. Like you need to let these guys develop. And we know with the Philadelphia Eagles in the past, they've had some veteran presences where as soon as things get rough for one of their young weapons, they'll pull them out for one of the veterans that's been around for a while that they really like and that they really respect. And I think that it's time that we move past that mentality, because the back end of this season can go a number of different ways for the Philadelphia Eagles. And there's a couple ways that aren't really good. But at least if things aren't really good or we're average or whatever, we at least start to figure things out with what we have with these young players. I feel my confidence level and panic level becomes quite a bit lower with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith back in the mix. But, I mean, our defense from a pure ranking standpoint all the way across the board, if you just look at yards alone, we rank 27th. And then if you look against the pass, we rank in the 20s across the board. So even though A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are back into the mix, you can't just expect the offense to go out there and pump out 30, 40 points every single night, because we've seen when we need to lean into that with the offense that they will let us down from time to time. And this, for the most part, beyond Saquon Barkley, is pretty much the same offense that let us down last season. That was part of the monumental collapse from week 10 onward. So things need to change on both sides of the ball. The A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith being back helps Jalen Hurts and should put Jalen Hurts in a better spot. But the defense definitely has to improve. Fangio definitely has to adjust, and they got to figure some things out, especially up front. I mean, like you were saying, if you're not in there, if your cornerbacks aren't in there and at least for 2 or 3 seconds making life a little harder for the quarterback and his wide receivers, they're going to have a field day. It's just too easy. And even Deshaun Watson should be able to pick apart short passes and quick passes if they're given to him.
Yeah, Brett Eclipse says, we saw KC deploy a very young defense in 21 and 22, and now they got one of the best defenses in the league with a bunch of talented young guys. It's a good model. It is a good model. Kansas City also had Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, so they were able to do that, and they have the best offensive mind in the game, the best quarterback who's going to end up being the best quarterback of all time and the best tight end of all time playing all together. So, and that offense was
I mean, not to cut you off, but they do have an amazing defenve mind. Sarkisian is a genius.
You mean Spags?
Spags.
Well, yes, that is true. They do. But it helps when you have the offensive prowess that they have, and they're able to pretty much, back in 21 and 22, be able to put up a bunch of points to allow the defense to grow week after week after week, so that Trent McDuffie turns into one of the best cornerbacks of all time, or of in the league. L'Jarius Sneed was really good, and he ended up getting traded because he got a big contract. It does help also when you have Chris Jones, and like we do have Jalen Carter, but Jalen Carter isn't Chris Jones. Yeah, their linebackers are better than our linebackers, right now. So we do hope, and they have Justin Reed at safety. Like, you do hope that the Eagles can follow that model, and it looks like that's what they want to do. It also didn't help that the defense the offense, when you lose your top 2 receivers, your right tackle, that kind of puts a pin in that game plan, because an offense that you expect to average close to 30 points a game, they struggle. Like, the Eagles are the only team in the NFL that has yet to score a first quarter point. The only team. You remember back in 22 where the Eagles just scored, like they led the league in first quarter scoring, and the reason why they were able to kind of run away with games was because they got out the big leads early, and then you can kind of play ball control in the second half. Well, they haven't been able to do that this year.
Yeah, and another big thing is the turnovers. I mean, we ranked number 2 in turnover percentage. 17.5% of our drives have ended in an offensive turnover. That's astronomical. And that is, do you know how hard it is to ask a defense to continue to hold teams to less than 2 scores, less than even 3 scores, when you turn the ball over at a 17% rate? Like that, you're just shy of turning the ball over on 1 in 5 possessions. Like, that's huge. You cannot have that type of we know that we're averaging at least a turnover a game. At least almost 2 turnovers a game. And that's, you just cannot. And then, of course, on the flip side of it, we ranked 29th in drives ending in turnovers for the other offense, with only 4.9% of drives ending in a turnover forced by our defense. So on both sides of the coin, we have yet to be able to figure out how to get that number to flip in our favor on both sides of the ball and work together at the same time, which is extremely frustrating because it feels like Kenyon Mitchell is just, once he gets that first one, I feel like he's going to be, you can tell he's a ball hawk. He goes for the ball. He loves he's there. He's positioned right. He's got the hands in the right spot. He just can't get the hands on it. We know that Darius Slay was never one who caused a ton of turnovers. I think we were leaning into Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to return to who he was a couple years back when he led the league. He led the league in turnovers or interceptions, and he missed how many games did he miss that year for us? Like 4-6 games. So I think we banked a lot on those things happening. And of course, I shared it in our group chat the other day. Xavier McKinney is leading the league in interceptions, and he's got like 5 interceptions
in every game this year.
And I was one who was McKinney over Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. But of course, we went with, well, I can get the discount because Xavier McKinney got the big deal. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson got, the deal where, there's a little more risk for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and less for the Philadelphia Eagles. So of course, Howie played what he felt was a savvy approach. Hopefully the early part of the season and the fact that he missed a lot of time last year is the rust is starting to come off and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson will get it together. But we need some turnovers to start going our way. And we need Jalen Hurts to be able to protect the ball a lot better.
Yeah, definitely key number one is Jalen Hurts protecting the football. And I think it's going to help. Like, he's going to have A.J. Brown. He's going to have Devontae Smith to throw the ball to. It's not going to be Johnny Wilson, Paris Campbell, John Ross that he's throwing the ball to. It's crazy. And Jahan Dotson. What's crazy is Jalen, if he doesn't have his top 2 receivers, he doesn't really – it took him how long to throw to a receiver against Tampa? Everything was to the tight ends and to the backs. It took him a quarter and a half. It felt like 2 quarters to throw the ball to a receiver. And I feel like he doesn't really throw the ball to Jahan Dotson at all. And
it's like he doesn't even try to build the rapport or build the confidence with these guys.
Which is crazy because we heard when they made that trade, he stayed after practice with Jahan Dotson to work on things. So I don't get it.
I don't get it either. It's like, but why in a game situation can you not pass the football or at least try to give somebody else an opportunity? Because it just feels like he absolutely has zero confidence in anyone not named A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. And then, of course, Saquon Barkley and Dallas Goedert. But when you got your top 2 receivers out, you can easily take guys like Saquon Barkley out of the game. Of course, when you're doing it yourself as a team, that helps the other team. But then Dallas Goedert, it's really easy to remove those guys from the game plan altogether when you have no confidence in throwing to any of your wide receivers. And at times, they weren't getting open, but there were other times where you saw they were getting open and where Jalen Hurts just decided to abandon the pocket or just really he's not making good decisions and not seeing the field properly without these 2 guys. And it's a shame that he can't, because, you want him to take that next step. You want him to be that guy. Like, we gave you the money. We understand you can't be the absolute difference maker, but you've got to be able to be a difference maker in those situations where you're down bodies. You need to be able to step up. And to me, he doesn't prove that he can step up in those situations. And it's really frustrating to see. Brett Eclipse says, hard to score first quarter points when you have amnesia and forget that Saquon Barkley is on your roster. Got to establish a run against Cleveland.
I mean, with the injuries in the secondary for Cleveland this week, it wouldn't shock me if the Eagles come out throwing the football. But this is where you can get Barkley involved in the passing game. They do need to run. They do need to run the ball. Like, Barkley in the game against Tampa had 13 carries for 80 some odd yards, average 5 to 6 yards a carry. That's what he can do when given the opportunity. Obviously, it helped when he had that big run. But it would not shock me if the Eagles come out and with both starting safeties out, with a couple banged up corners. You want to run into a line that has Zadarius Smith and Myles Garrett and Dalvin Tomlinson, or would you spread them out and get more corners on the field because they're going to be back to their 3rd, 4th, 5th corners, and see who can cover. See if Denzel Ward. See how healthy Denzel Ward is. Can he cover AJ Brown? I mean, if you're going to double team AJ Brown, you have Devontae Smith. You're going to double team Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. Good luck. Like Dallas Goedert's been coming on like lately, so it is going to be interesting to see the game plan. But again, it wouldn't shock me if the Eagles come out passing the ball early.
I agree with you, and I hope that Jalen Hurts is smart about it, because one of the things that the Cleveland Browns can do is force fumbles. Just looking at it now, they've forced 7 fumbles this season. That they're
not losing games because of their defense.
Exactly, they definitely have their defense.
Isn't
statistically, their defense is really good. Like statistically, their defense is for the most part top 15 in the league. They're terrible rushing defense, which makes me think like if you're gonna take advantage, like this is a chance. Get Saquon Barkley involved from the get-go and try and run. They rank 24th against the run, where they rank 7th against the pass. Definitely with the injuries, you want to try and open things up and take advantage of the injuries and work that passing game. But at the same time, Jalen Hurts and his ball security issues have me wondering, like, maybe you want to start putting the run game, getting them back on their heels, and then opening up the pass game. Like, it'd be very interesting to see what part of this defense Kellen Moore wants to take advantage of, and if Jalen Hurts can be smart and control the football properly.
You also know that they're going to want to get AJ Brown hasn't played since week 1. Devontae hasn't played since New Orleans, so they're going to want to get them involved. And talking about Cleveland, Jim Schwartz coming back to Philly, the Eagles defensive coordinator when they won the Super Bowl. So he's probably going to want to get really aggressive. Like he saw what Tampa did against Hurts. He knows that he can struggle against the blitz, so it wouldn't shock me if he brings the blitz. And that's where you get quick. Jalen holds the ball the longest of any quarterback in the NFL. He's got to start getting rid of it, and I think he will. I mean, he has his top guys back. Brett Eclipse asked, do you think Jalen finally goes without a turnover this week?
No.
I'm going to guarantee you. I don't know how. I'm going to put a bet down on Sunday that Jalen Hurts turns the ball over. I don't win bets. So Jalen Hurts won't turn the ball over after I put a bet that Jalen Hurts is going to turn the ball over. That's how I guarantee him not.
If it works that way, I would love for it to work that way for both of us. I'll do it if it means it's not going to happen. But seeing when you see that in 5 games, this team has 7 forced fumbles. No, they don't have the interceptions. But this just feels like one of those situations where Jalen Hurts is going to vacate the pocket too soon, or he's going to start running with his arm way back like that Tampa Bay fumble where he's running and he has zero awareness that the ball seems to be in his hands whatsoever. This just feels like one of those games where a guy's going to get the hand on the ball and it's going to be another fumble. I would put my money on Jalen Hurts not throwing a pick, but I would put my money on Jalen Hurts fumbling.
Huff and Hurts got to switch jersey numbers. Huff for 1 tackle made and Hurts for 0 games without a turnover. That's pretty funny. That's a good one. The one thing that I noticed that was crazy, the Eagles are a 9.5 point favorite against Cleveland. That's the highest spread of any game this year. Has anybody watched the Eagles play football this year? How are they favored 9.5 to 10 points over anybody?
I think it's flip it the other way. Have you watched the Cleveland Browns and Deshaun Watson play football? And I think that's where people are going.
Has Deshaun Watson played the Eagles defense yet?
No.
So we can flip this on. We can keep flipping this.
He has played. You know what's crazy? This offense for the Browns has yet to score 20 points in a game.
Yeah, the most they've scored is 18, right?
18 is the most that they've scored. So at this point, there is a chance. There is a very real chance that you just have to put up 20 points and you might be able to walk out with a win. But this defense, they played the Jacksonville Jaguars and it was 18-13. There's got to be a silver lining somewhere here for this defense, but I just can't find it. What would
be more surprising? The Eagles give up 30 points to Deshaun and this Browns offense, or Jalen doesn't turn the ball over?
Oh, I think the Cleveland Browns putting up 30 is wholly possible. They're definitely this is going to be the first game of the year they put up over 20. Absolutely.
Oh, probably.
Absolutely.
I'm not giving away my score prediction, but who knows? You never know. Vegas saw the Jalen Hurts Kumbaya press conference. And yeah, I was going to bring that up. Where Jalen said that him and Sirianni kind of got together. You know, they're two leaders of the team. They you know, kind of smoothed things out over the bye.
Like they finally broke bread.
Do we believe it?
Like
do we believe it, or is that the organization that's Jeffrey Lurie, that's Howie Roseman telling Jalen, just go out there and say something nice about
there's no way that was Jalen Hurts under his own fruition making that comment. There's no way. This is the same guy who for essentially 2 years, a full year for sure, and some, has created this media circus around the fact that these two cannot see eye to eye. They don't get along. They can't do anything. And you're going to tell me that an early bye week in this season is the kumbaya breaking bread moment for these two? I'm sorry. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Lurie told him he has a sniper on him off. I mean, I don't believe that this is 100% Jalen Hurts. I just don't. I can't. This same guy, the way he's been, I don't believe it. If he continues to say it and you see the interaction on the sideline, like not just, oh yeah, behind closed doors where no one else can see us, we've been having this kumbaya moment.
To be fair, a lot of the players say, like, a lot of the players, they love Nick Sirianni. Yep. And it's like, we don't see the Sirianni they see. If that makes any sense. Like, he's a totally different guy in the locker room or behind, without cameras around, without reporters around, than he is in front of the media. Like, absolutely. He's a long talker in front of the media. He just yap, and he flowers this and, high school football that.
Yeah, like, you can definitely tell, like, he's like compassionate with the players. Like, you can tell he can speak to people better than he can the media. Like, he can definitely one-on-one, if he's with you, like, look at the things that happened with Paris Campbell. Some of these guys who came back on the practice squad and may ultimately end up having roster spots on this roster, full-time roster spots eventually. Like, he's able to get people to buy into what we talk about him as a culture builder. I mean, sometimes, like, some weeks you're like, man, this culture is great. Some weeks you're like, what the heck is going on with this culture and this team? But like, there's something there that the players are bought into that we just don't see, and maybe we're never going to see. And some people just aren't media people. And I think that that's the biggest thing with Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni and their relationship. They're just not media people. They don't know what to say. They can't say the right things. They get long-winded and everyone just starts to read it. We know the Philadelphia media. They don't pick into the little things at all in the words that are said. But of course they do. We know they do. So these two just strike me as guys who just cannot operate in front of the media, but behind closed doors can probably operate extremely well. And we'll never be able to get the true story and understand the true workmanship between the two of them, just because it's Philadelphia and it's the media that we have around them.
And they like the Philly media likes to be negative. They want to find something wrong and run with it and create a story that sometimes is not there. Maybe it is there, but like, they don't have to keep prodding at it. Abe, I apologize if I'm saying that wrong, says, I'll say one thing. Winning solves all problems. Now that we're healthy, if we rattle off 3 straight W's here, the tenor on this could flip overnight. The Fangio scheme is complex too. That defense should progressively get better. Miami did until they also had a bunch of injuries early. Like Jalen Ramsey was hurt, and like they had a bunch of injuries last year. And I do agree with that. Like, and now that you have Avonte out of the lineup, you have DeJean in. Hopefully tackling gets better and they can start forcing turnovers. Sidney Brown's going to come back. And he could be kind of somebody that they can use as, like, if you wanted to get faster, put him at linebacker and whatnot and see what he can do. And you're right about, like, think about the next 4 games if you think about it. Before leading up to the Cowboys game, versus the Browns, at the Giants, at the Bengals. Now, the Bengals offense is really good. And then it's going to be in Cleveland, and we usually tie in Cleveland. It's going to be in Cincinnati, and we tie Cincinnati all the time, it seems like. And then Jaguars on Sunday Night Football. So, like, if the Eagles can win 3 of the next 4, going into that Dallas game, that is going to be huge. That will put you at 5-3. And, we'll see what the Commanders are doing by that time. Because then after Dallas, you host the Commanders on Thursday Night Football. Like, that could definitely, talk about a game. Like, could be for first place in the division, Eagles and Commanders, the way that Jaden Daniels and that Commanders team, nobody thought that they were going to be in the mix this year. But here we are, and they're in first place. And in a really fun matchup this week against Baltimore. But yeah, and as Brett Eclipse says, winning cures all. It starts with making the Cleveland Browns look like the Cleveland Browns. I'm just hoping it's not Deshaun Watson from 2018. I don't know if you guys remember that game, Nick Foles versus Deshaun Watson at the Link. Eagles won that game, but Deshaun Watson threw for like 500,000 yards. Like, hopefully it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that these two comments came through at the like almost exact same time, but they're on different platforms, so they didn't even know that they each said the exact same thing. But it definitely, winning does cure all. We saw it at the beginning of last season. This team looked so different. When we were rolling. And then as this losses started to pile up during that massive collapse last season, the team looked like night and day. Like, they were completely different teams, different players. And so, yeah, winning definitely cures all. And we have, obviously, it's only 4 weeks into the season. So when you go by win percentage, it's kind of difficult to manage this early in the season, but we have the easy strength of schedule for the rest of the season. So based on, strength, based on where everyone sits at this very moment. But of course, you expect the Cowboys to likely get better. You expect the Bengals to likely get better. You expect,
I don't know. Dallas, I mean, they have a bunch of DeMarcus
maybe not
Lawrence.
Dallas, but like some of these teams you expect.
Well, we also struggle in Dallas though, so
yeah. So and just like you said, like coming through these next few games, like these next 6 games are huge. You get 3 divisional matchups. Don't forget about, but like, you got to win against the Browns. You got to win against the Giants. You got to win against the Jaguars. Those seem like the gimme wins, the wins that need to happen. And then you got the Giants, Cowboys, and the the Bengals, who could turn it around at any point. The Commanders and the Dallas Cowboys, even the Giants. I say it's a shoe-in, but you never know because, conference games, you just never know. It's just an absolute gong show in any matchup. Some years you win all of them. Some years you lose. It's the worst against the worst teams to beat the best teams. But those are huge. Those in the next 6 games have been 3 divisional matchups, and one of them ending off with the Washington Commanders, who very well could be sitting very pretty atop the division by the time we meet them. Those are huge. You got to win those matchups because at the end of the year, we know in the NFC East, it all comes down to the tiebreaker, the divisional matchups, that final week or two. You can really separate yourself from the pack by coming out of this, especially with at least 2 divisional wins. Hopefully we get 3 divisional wins. But we can't underrate how important these next 6 games are, because after that, of course, you run into another tough, like the Rams are not an easy game. The Ravens aren't an easy game. Panthers probably are. Steelers, they're a gritty team. They're a tough team. And then you run into the Commanders, Cowboys, and Giants again. So at no point during this backstretch should any of these games be taken lightly. Like, we need to come out firing, and we need to definitely be winning a lot of these upcoming games, especially in the next 6. We got to come out at least 4-2. Even I feel like we got to come out better than 4-2, because 4-2 still only puts you 2 games above 500. So it's going to be an interesting next 6 games. Not trying to look past the Cleveland Browns, but it does start. Cleveland. It all comes back to Brett Eclipse, and you need to make the Cleveland Browns look like the Cleveland Browns, and it starts this stretch starts there, and it needs to get headed in the right direction there.
I just don't want Deshaun Watson to, throw for 500 yards against us. Amani Bentley, thanks for joining us. Go Birds. Brett Eclipse. Conversely, if we don't win Sunday, the plane takes a nosedive. That is 1,000% true. And, the way Philadelphia fans are, feeling now after what happened to the Phillies on Wednesday, nothing bad can happen. If there was ever a week that we needed the Eagles to look like, the 2022 Eagles, it's this week. Like, we need them to look as dominant, like as The betting market has them as 9.5 points favorites. We need them to blow this team out. They need to come out, score 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. The offense needs to look like they're rolling, and just blow them out so that we can see Kenny Pickett in the fourth quarter. I hate Kenny Pickett.
I can promise you right now, I have a pick'em league that is based on the spread, and the Cleveland Browns are my pick right now. Like, that's massive. 9.5, 10 points. 10 points. Like, that's a lot for even the best teams in football.
That makes me think Vegas didn't watch the Eagles. And I think they're also, Vegas is smarter than a lot of people. They're hoping that everybody puts their money on the Browns, and then like the Eagles come out and win this game 35-10. Like, that's what Vegas is hoping for. All right, so before we jump into our unheralded player of the week for week 5 and our keys to the game, players to watch, and prediction, Devin White was finally released earlier this week. I had high hopes for Devin White when he signed. I thought it was a great signing by Howie. This wasn't one of Howie's best off seasons. Bryce Huff has 1 total tackle. Devin White cut. CJ is iffy. I mean, he's okay. Like, he has a bunch of missed. How many is he missing? 2 tackles a game? It seems like.
He's averaging 2 tackles missed a game. Yep.
Yeah. This hasn't been his best off season thus far for Howie. But in terms of Devin White, what went wrong? What do you think went wrong?
I mean, there's so many people pinpointing that he lost the job to Nakobe Dean, but there was no reason for it to immediately start at you can't even make the game day roster.
It's crazy because he was the starter and had all starting reps in preseason and camp.
And ultimately, to me, I think the biggest point here is he couldn't do anything for special teams, or at least the Eagles didn't trust him, or he didn't want to. He didn't want to, and of course, even if the Eagles wanted to try, they probably didn't trust him. So even if they wanted to give him reps in practice just to say, hey, can you give us a show? Because we know the importance of Ben Van Sumeren and the other name skipping my mind right now, but the other linebacker that we kept over him. Jeremiah Trotter. They're pretty important to special teams. They're very good special teamers. You need it. If you were going to lose that job to Nakobe Dean, you had to have a willingness to try special teams and to be half effective at it. And
that's crazy too, because Nakobe Dean can't stay healthy, and obviously he was on the injury list this week with ankle injury. He's going to play. He's going to start. Like, you out
of a bye week, of all players to come out of a bye week with an injury, it would.
You know what's going to stink? Like, he's going to sign with Dallas or something, and he's going to look like the Devin White old, and it's going to very much irritate me.
I mean, it's so true. It possibly could happen, but you asked where it went wrong. I think it all comes back to he lost the job and had a complete unwillingness to play special teams, and we see that, there is a very significant value. There is always at least one linebacker kept on this roster who is a absolute star on special teams. One of the most important pieces of special teams is always at least one linebacker. So that they're always going to keep one, and he had to have a willingness to do that. He didn't have a willingness to do that, and the Eagles said there's just not a spot on the roster anymore. It sucks because now you have dead cap this year, and you have dead cap next year, because in typical Howie fashion, he threw in a void year, he threw some guaranteed money.
They also, but they also said they kind of did some finance. They're going to get some. And again, we don't know the specifics behind it. We don't know the details, but they'll get some financial flexibility by allowing him to be released and be a free agent right away and not go through waivers and all that. So he probably adjusted the contract a little bit.
Of course, there's something. Yeah,
we don't know that yet. But yeah, we'll see. I had high hopes for Devin White, but it's just a shame that it didn't work out.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree more. There was a lot of people with high hopes, and then there was some severe skeptics, and the skeptics won out on this one. And the skeptics of Howie Roseman's offseason right now are winning out altogether, because none of his signings and a lot of his draft picks just aren't coming to fruition yet. Well, the draft picks are doing well, but draft picks of prior years aren't really standing out the way we want them to. So it's like, okay, cool. You hit on Kenyon Mitchell. We're about to see if Cooper DeJean was a hit. But what about, what about Jordan Davis? What about some of the guys from past years that are almost non-existent and you barely hear them
Nolan Smith,
talk?
yeah.
Nolan Smith.
Red Eclipse
Yep.
says if he lost if he lost his job, fine, but like, why the hell was he the starter all of camp? That's what I was saying. Why not have Dean get any experience? Well, there was that talk of them trying to trade Devin White. I wonder if that was the reason. But also, like, Fangio, did Fangio just not like him? Did they sign Devin White without Fangio's blessing?
It could very well be true, because we know when Fangio doesn't like someone, he's not afraid to make it pretty clear. Maybe not always to the media, but it's clear in the playing time. It's like Bryce Huff. You can tell Bryce Huff is underperforming, which is probably frustrating him, and maybe he's not able to find Bryce Huff a role yet. But I mean, yeah, good that they finally picked a young guy over, this free agent vet signing, like that with Nakobe Dean. But Nakobe Dean, similar to Avonte Maddox, is kind of glass-like in stature. So you have to worry that eventually, and that's the biggest thing, is Nakobe Dean's eventually going to go down. Ben Van Sumer and Jeremiah Trotter have been very great, very admirable special teamers. Not very good when you put them in a starting linebacker position.
Yeah, it's like if something happens to Dean, Trotter's in there. Trotter is the backup middle linebacker. So that would be interesting what happens. Red Eclipse, Quinyon Mitchell holding how he's all season narrative together like the Spider-Man train scene. I'm picturing that in my head. That's hilarious. I like that. All right. So before we get to our keys to the game, players to watch, and prediction for the Eagles-Browns, let's go back to last week, week 5 in the NFL, for our unheralded player of the week. And for unheralded, what do we mean? We don't need Patrick Mahomes. We don't need all the big-time guys. Somebody that kind of came out of nowhere to help his team. I typically like to go help his team come away with the win. Connor's picked losing players before, but some player that nobody had anticipated doing anything. Who you got, Connor?
I'm gonna have to ask you to go first. I didn't come prepared.
And this isn't every Friday thing. All right, I'm gonna go with the guy that helped his team come away with their first win of the season over the Indianapolis Colts, as the Jaguars defeated the Colts 37-34. The Colts just can't win in Jacksonville. It's crazy. I'm going with Tank Bigsby. 13 carries, 101 yards, 28 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns. He had a long of 65 yards, averaged over 7 yards a carry. Yeah, Tank Bigsby looked good. I mean, Travis Etienne had only 6 carries in the game, and that was a much-needed win for Doug Peterson and the Jacksonville Jaguars, as if they would have lost that game, Peterson may have gotten fired this week. But I'm going with Tank Bigsby for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, I was looking at Tank Bigsby too, but I'm going to go with, and this guy, I mean, 2 years ago, we probably called this guy out a lot, but this guy wasn't even given a chance. And then he was finally given another chance. And I'm going with Kareem Hunt. He was instrumental for the Chiefs' victory. 27 carries, 102 yards, a touchdown. He had a huge night. He had a huge night for the Chiefs, and of course, the Chiefs come out 5-0. Of course, there's people pointing out, videos of rigged games, and they should be worse off than 5-0. But Kareem Hunt wasn't even given a chance, wasn't even given really a look. He wasn't even brought into any camps or anything, and he waited out for his opportunity. He got his opportunity. It may only be the one game that he gets that. Similar to Juju, like Kareem Hunt and Juju having huge games in the same game. Just the irony of that is
that's why you never burn bridges.
Exactly. Never burn bridges, because you never know when that might be the only opportunity that you have. And then you get to come back and throw up over 100 yards like both of them did. And Brad Eclipse, if you want to join us on every Friday, yes, we talk every game.
It doesn't have to be an Eagle player.
It doesn't have to be an Eagle. So join us on Friday and give us somebody that people might not know the name and join us. But yes, we're talking general.
All right, now we're gonna finish off with our prediction for this weekend's game, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Cleveland Browns. So Connor, give me offensive player, defensive player, maybe a key or two, and your score prediction.
I mean, damn, a player I'm watching is Jalen Hurts. Like I get it. You lost your two guys. Times were tough the last couple games. You have to come out and you have to show, like, you got to, I mean, I want to see 300 yards through the air. Like I don't even know if Jalen Hurts has done it yet this year. Of course, you get to lean on Saquon Barkley for 100 plus almost every game. So that helps. But I mean, I want to see 300 plus through the air from Jalen Hurts. All that, like, the media has been talking about it, the podcasts, everybody on their YouTube channels. It's like these guys like are the glue for Jalen Hurts. Okay, well, Jalen, it's time to just go out there and fire away. You got a team who has one interception all season. You got a passing defense that's been okay, but very banged up. Like, you got to take full advantage. You got to go. I want to see 300 passing yards from Jalen Hurts. I really want to see it this week. And I get it's a really bad Russian defense. So, of course, Saquon Barkley, you can go off for 100 again. And I hope you do. And I hope that they find Saquon early in the game, because there definitely is something to, the Brett Eclipse was talking about it. And there is something to the point that they don't start using him till almost the second quarter in every single game. And the fact that they score after that, but they don't score in the first, there is something there. And I don't know what Kellen Moore needs to see more than, let's start giving Saquon Barkley the ball early, put an defense on their heels, and then you can let Jalen Hurts throw the football, and the defense is going to be backed off, and Jalen Hurts is going to feel better. He's going to feel more confident, less pressure on him. So that's on offense. It's kind of like a Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley show, but I want 300 from Jalen Hurts for sure. Defensively, I mean, we kind of hit on it like once, twice, three times earlier in the show. Like, this pass rush has got to do something this week. The Cleveland Browns have given up, I think it was, I don't have the stat for me now, I think it was 79 total pressures. It is tied for second, actually, in the NFL. They are only behind the New England Patriots, who are nearly at 100 through 5 weeks, which is crazy. So you got this team that's given up so many pressures. If there was ever a chance to start getting right and turning this ship around, it would be this game. It would be this matchup against this Cleveland Browns banged up offensive line. Some of them have been limited all week. Some of them are going to be missing. I don't even know if I want to call Bryce Huff out, because I have like almost no expectation. So I'm going to give it to Josh Sweat. I want to see like a Josh Sweat game, one of those 2-3 sack games from Josh Sweat. And then, of course, probably going to disappear for 3 or 4 weeks. But I want to see one of those weeks this week. I want to see one of those games this week. I mean, also, like, Jalen Carter can have a game like the Saints game where everyone's looking back at the tape and saying this is like a historic game from Jalen Carter. Again, I feel like he can do that this week for sure. So those are my offensive and defensive players, and I'll let you go, and then we'll hit on the predictions.
On the defensive side of the ball, I'm going to go Cooper DeJean. I want to see what he's going to do his first starting action. He's going to have a tough matchup. I mean, Elijah Moore, Jerry Jeudy, Amari Cooper, all pretty good route runners. So whoever he goes up against, it's going to be tough. But I want to see what DeJean has. Maybe he can help in the run game. Maybe he can force a turnover. We'll see what he has. But let's see what Cooper DeJean can do. On the offensive side of the football, as Brett Eclipse says, let's go A.J. Brown. His first game back since week 1. He says, give me Arthur Juan Brown, man. Offense is simply not the same when he's not there. 100% true. He's truly a top 3 potential wide receiver, and I think he has the most impact on this offense, even more than Lane. Lane Johnson's pretty important. Like, this team is like wins 37% of their games when Lane Johnson doesn't play, and wins like 63% when he does play. So I still think Lane Johnson is more important, but not having A.J. Brown does affect Jalen Hurts a lot, for sure. So I think A.J. Brown's going to want to come out. He might throw up 2 tutties. Like, remember that game against Pittsburgh he had in 2022 when he caught 3 touchdowns? I'm going to shock me if it was something like that. A banged up Cleveland secondary. Let's see A.J. Brown go off this week for like 7 catches, 125 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So I'm going to go with A.J.
we ranked 21st in the league in our red zone efficiency. So I mean, yes, give me 3 touchdowns and give them all in the red zone to AJ Brown.
No,
I would
they'll be long
absolutely
touchdowns. They
love
won't
to
be.
see
They
it.
won't. Let's be real. They won't be red zone touchdowns. If it's a red zone touchdown, it's probably a tush push touchdown. But it's going to be AJ Brown from he's going to have.
Yeah,
A couple
we know
40
it's
yards.
AJ Brown catching the ball and just yakking his way to the end zone. We
like
know
he did,
it.
he did against Green Bay in Week 1. Yeah, so I think those two guys, and then Cooper DeJean. Let's see what he has. Let's see what the young man has in his first starting action. All right, prediction time. Who you got?
I got the Eagles winning this. I know we've kind of talked like in circles. We've been up, we've been down, we've been all around on this. But I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles. But I am giving the Cleveland Browns over 20 points for the first time this season. I am going to go 31-24. I still don't think they cover. There's no way they cover. Could be close. I don't think they cover, though.
So I'm going to do a same game parlay bet, and I'm having the Browns to cover the 9.5. Eagles win. Browns will cover, and to Jalen not turn the ball over, or for Jalen to turn the ball over, so that it's going to be a blowout. And Jalen won't turn the ball over just because that's the way my betting life goes. I'm also taking the Eagles to win. I have them winning 24-17. It's going to be a lot closer than it should be. It's going to have Eagles fans kind of biting their nails in the fourth quarter, like what the heck is going on. But the Eagles will come away with the win, go 3-2 as they get ready to go to MetLife Stadium next week for Saquon Barkley's return to New Jersey against the Giants. So we both have the Eagles winning, improving to 3-2. And if Baltimore can do their job, they'll be a half game behind the Washington Commanders heading into Week 6. Well, they would be 3-2. They would be 4-2. Yeah, be a half game behind. I had it right the first time. As we are a couple weeks out from that Thursday night matchup between the Eagles and the Commanders. Connor, it's been a while. It feels like the Eagles haven't played in a month, but I'm glad we get Eagles football, and we get another London game, so we can start watching football at 9:30 in the morning. Well, 10:30 for you, 9:30 Eastern time here in PA. Before the link is gonna be rocking for Eagles football, their second true home game of the season. Thank you all for tuning in to the Kelly Green Hour. As always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10, and follow me on Twitter at LJ Harrell54. Go ahead, Connor.
And check out the entire Eagles Pinpool Network. We're gonna get these down next week. We were ready for this week, but we're gonna get the X. We're gonna get the YouTube. We're gonna get all that stuff. But type in Eagles Pinpool Network on Google and go to X, go to YouTube, go to your favorite podcast provider and hit subscribe, follow, whatever you do, and keep checking us out and all the great content that will be over there at the Eagles Pinpool Network.
Yep, and if you follow us on Twitter, Connor does a great job game day and throughout the entire week with any updates that come out. Put a poll out on Fridays to get who you think is going to win. We had a high percentage of votes for the Eagles this week. I think it was like over 90% of people, shockingly.
I think we always have very high, like,
except
I don't remember the
week,
last.
The Saints week, I think the Saints had a higher percentage. I picked the Saints.
I was going to say, I don't think it's rare I see the weeks where people actually go more in favor.
I'm pretty sure
of
the Saints week,
opponent,
yeah.
But.
I'm pretty sure the Saints week, we had more for the Saints. But and for everybody that left us comments, thank you. Helps the show go by quick. Feels like when we get these comments and we kind of helps us set the show up and everything, and we can go in any direction when we have comments. So we appreciate you all. Please join us every Monday, right? We're still doing Mondays.
We're going to be back live on Mondays. So
yep. Live on Mondays with our reaction to the previous game, and live on Fridays with our preview to the upcoming game. Thank you all for tuning into the Kelly Green Hour. For Connor, I'm LJ. Have a good night.
Fly, Eagles, fly.